Hello, welcome back to the Render YouTube channel. I'm Jim, and I'll be walking you through the built-in filtration system in the Optic. We'll be discussing the pre-filter, the main filter, how and when you know it's time to change each of them out, and finally, proper technique on how to remove and install a new filter. Before we dive in, let's review why the Optic has a built-in filtration system. With any laser system, there needs to be a method to deal with the laser-generated air contaminants to avoid exposure to the unpleasant and unhealthy smoke and fumes. Each system does this differently, and all systems require maintenance to ensure continuous performance. The Optic's unique built-in filtration system keeps it very portable and eliminates the need for a bulky external filtering unit or venting outside. And just remember, this is just the external filtration system. To get started, let's talk a little about the life of the Optic's filter. The life of an individual filter will depend greatly on what materials you process and your cut or engrave settings. In general, cutting produces more smoke than light engraving, requiring the filter to be replaced more often. Some materials, like wood, naturally generate more particulates than other materials, like acrylic. Additionally, some materials that contain glue, like plywood and MDF, or have a lot of resin, like some soft and hardwoods, will clog up the HEPA filter quicker. With that covered, let's look at the filtration system of the Optic. You likely already know about our washable pre-filter from our other videos. But in case you aren't familiar yet, here's what you should know. First, it's located in the upper body near the laser module. The pre-filter is held in place magnetically and can easily be pulled out so it can be washed with running water and a little bit of soap if heavily saturated with debris. The pre-filter is the first of the Optic's three-stage filtration system. It is designed to catch the large particles to keep them out of your main filter and preserve the life of it. When you wash the pre-filter, you'll need to let it fully air dry before reinstalling it into the Optic. To help speed up the drying process, use a paper towel to soak up as much moisture as you can before letting it sit to air dry. We recommend leaving it out of the Optic to dry at least overnight. The reasons are simple. One, it will not filter properly when wet, and two, behind the pre-filter is the upper body circuit board, and as you may know, electricity and water does not play well together. When reinstalling the pre-filter, you'll find it's held in place with magnets and should be a snug fit in the window. There are wires running on the side of the pre-filter location, so if the pre-filter gets caught, feel with your finger to make sure you're not pushing against any wires. So the first question about the filtration system we get a lot is, when do I know it's time to replace my filter? Let's get a couple answers to this question. The first way to know it's time to change your filter is by inspecting it after extended use. Smoke is not always very visible with some materials like slate, but it may still fill up after cutting a while. So it's best practice to check the filter after extended use. Another way to know it's time to change the filter is when you notice smoke building up inside the upper body, or notice that smoke is not being pulled into the filtration system and escaping into your work area. If you notice that smoke is leaking into your work area, stop the Optic to avoid exposure to the laser-generated smoke and fumes. The first thing we're going to check is the pre-filter. If the pre-filter is full, it can stop the fans from being able to pull the smoke out of the chamber. If the pre-filter looks to be in good shape, it's time to look at the main filter. As we talked about earlier, maintaining Optic's main filter is critical. Not only does this keep you safe from the smoke and fumes, but it also provides cooling to the upper electronics board by the air moving over it. If smoke builds up in the upper body, it can reduce the amount of power the laser delivers to your material, making your Optic not cut or engrave as expected. The main filter is designed to have a snug fit with a gasket to prevent any leaking around it. This tight seal ensures optimal performance but can make the filter feel firmly seated. Let's go through the proper technique to safely remove the filter. Place your Optic in a mostly folded configuration. Allow the support wheel to rest against the lower body but not fold under. Slide the upper body all the way forward so it's against the hard stop. Then with 2 fingers in the slot on the bottom of the filter and your thumb in the filter end cap, place your other hand on top of the upper body to brace it against the table so it does not slide. Then pull the filter out with a swift pull. With the filter out of the Optic, we want to look and see if it appears to be saturated. Let's first look at the pleated HEPA filter that captures a particulate here in the top section. We are not really looking at the color, which will depend greatly on what you have been cutting. We are looking to see if the filter appears to be full or if there is a lot of residue and dust that would prevent the smoke from being pulled through. The other part of the filter is the activated carbon. This section traps gases like volatile organic compounds, or VOCs. They're created when cutting or engraving materials like acrylic. This section is harder to determine when full, as this is a chemical process. Similar to the HEPA filter, when you start to see smoke escape, it is a good time to check and replace your filter. We commonly see the HEPA portion of the filter filling up before the carbon is saturated. One quick thing to note as we are looking at the filters, we do not want to remove and reinstall the filter continually. This can cause the seal to weaken and eventually leak. The gasketing around the filter is lubricated to allow it to be installed easily. But as this lubricant wears off, it can cause the seal to degrade, causing premature failure. Now let's look at a few examples of filters at different stages of use. This filter is brand new. You can see the HEPA portion is clean and there is no dust in it. This filter has been used, but is still within its lifespan. Thus, it can be reinstalled and continued to be used. These filters are past their usable life, and as you can see, the HEPA filter is completely saturated, and this is likely the cause of smoke getting into your workspace. If you need replacement filters for your Optic, you can order them from our website. Here's an example. They're individually bagged, and we do not want to open the filters from their bags until it is time to install it into the Optic to prevent exposure to the high humidity. This is due to the active carbon in the filter. This can soak up the humidity from the air, which can cause the carbon filter media to saturate over time before it's ready to use. Simply cut the bag open and remove the filter. Before installing the filter, we want to make sure that the gasket on the filter body is pressed down firmly. Not making sure these are fully seated will potentially cause the gasket to tear when being installed. As we discussed earlier, the filter gasket is lubricated and is there to make sure the filter slides into the body without tearing. Before installing the filter, use a flashlight to inspect the inside of the upper body. Look at the upper body electronics to make sure there is not a large amount of debris in the area. Also make sure there is nothing in the way that would prevent the filter from being fully inserted. This is also a good time to look at the fans. Check to make sure there is not a large amount of debris on the fans themselves. These can easily be cleaned out using compressed air, similar to the way we cleaned off the upper body electronics in this video. To install the filter, line the filter up with the end of the upper body and press it into the body firmly. There should not be a large gap between the filter end cap and the end of the body. If you notice a gap, press the filter in firmly to properly seat. If you still have a large gap, remove the filter and look to see if anything's preventing a good seal and reinstall. With a new filter in place, you may want to run a simple test cut before jumping into a project. A test cut will allow us to see if the filter is properly working before we jump into a project. With a test cut complete, you're now ready to jump back into your projects. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us at hello@rendyr.com and our support teams will be happy to assist you. Thank you and happy creating.